Yo everyone, it's time to do another one-take, unscripted, full breakdown of the AHSOKA series, this time tackling S1E3, Time to Fly. As always, there will be spoilers, and don't forget to please like, share, sub, and turn on those notifications. Alright, everyone ready? Here we go! Alright, so kicking off with the review. I felt the episode was overall pretty solid. It had a very Star Wars-y feel, and yes, that is an adjective these days. The space battle was a standout. That, in particular, really felt like an old episode of the Clone Wars. Honestly, this whole episode, with its tiny length, minuscule in length, 22, 24 minutes of content, it essentially was an animated episode of Star Wars. But thanks to that space battle and Ahsoka's crazy moves, it really had that Clone Wars flair. It felt like a Clone Wars mission. So I did enjoy the episode overall, but I will say it did kind of feel like it should have just been a part of episode 2. At least a large portion of episode 3 should have been attached to the second episode. And then, the other half of episode 3 could have just been attached to episode 4. It was too fast. I was left wanting more, which is great, but I did feel a bit shortchanged. It's like just as it started, it ended. So yeah, the length wasn't ideal, although I will say, even though it was a short runtime, it definitely wasn't a filler type of episode. Not that any Star Wars is filler if you're really paying attention. But it was very quick and efficient, so you can definitely say that. But solid story. The narrative was advanced, the goalposts have been moved, so everything is A-OK. I also really dug the check-in with the New Republic. It perfectly showed their ineptitude at this point in time in the Star Wars timeline. They can't get out of their own way. Hamato Ziono is a punk. And you can see Chancellor Mothma, first time she was ever called that, by the way, at least on screen, from what I know, she's powerless. It's like she's been neutered. You can tell she's hearing Hera and feels for her, but it seems like she is crushed by the bureaucracy that has become the New Republic, and ultimately we know what that leads to. The rise of the First Order and the New Republic's destruction in The Force Awakens. So I really did dig the dynamic of that. I do like getting some Star Wars politics, and that's we definitely got that in this episode via Hera meeting with the senators and Chancellor Mothma. I will say, after talking to young Nick yesterday on the Star Wars Time Show, which, hey, we do a live stream every Tuesday, 5 p. East. Check us out. You'll dig it. I agree with him. There's just something off with the performances, specifically with Ahsoka and Sabine. Ahsoka, again, a lot of arms crossing. It feels very prequels era. And I don't know if that was Dave's directive, because, George is his guy. Dave is the son of the maker, essentially. But they feel a bit vapid, like there's not a lot of energy. And like Nick said, I don't think it's the performer's fault. This is the writing and this is the directing, and they want them to kind of just be ho-hum, not a ton of emotion, which I guess I could kind of get from Ahsoka. But Sabine, on the other hand, she should be in her 30s. She's a grown woman, and she kind of still is a little pouty type of teenager acting. So I don't know. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's awful, but something does feel like it's lacking in some of the performances in the series so far. The episode also did a good job at adding to Star Wars lore, in particular with the space whales, those purrgils you heard about if you're not familiar. I just like how it established very clearly that the galaxy has known about these things for a long time, and they are responsible for the intergalactic hyperspace routes that, Morgan and her team are going to take advantage of, and hopefully the good guys as they go search for Ezra and Thrawn. So, like I said, this episode, Time to Fly, definitely advanced the narrative, and it has maintained this series feeling of a very intriguing mystery. What is Morgan up to? Who is this Marok type of guy? What is Balin and Shin's endgame? Do they have their own endgame? I like all this. I like not knowing where things are going, and that we still have some new lore to explore with the path to Peridia and all that fun stuff. So, too short, but overall it accomplished its objectives. All right, so let's get into a few of my top moments. There was 3 in particular from Time to Fly, starting with the blinder training, tapping into the Zatoichi school of fighting with a katana, a boken saber, if you will. It had a very Luke on the bridge of the Millennium Falcon feel in A New Hope, training with his blinder helmet on with Obi-Wan. It definitely channeled that for me. I mean, how there are even training remotes in there, even though Sabine and Ahsoka didn't use it. But I enjoyed the scene. I like seeing Ahsoka become the master and teaching her apprentice. You could definitely feel a little bit of Sky Guy in her training. But like I said, overall, it was an echo. It was a parallel to what happened with Luke and Obi-Wan way back in A New Hope. So I always dig when we kind of get those through lines with this franchise. Up next, got to go with Hera versus Xiono. In particular, their contentious back and forth in that briefing where she was asking for help to go assist Ahsoka and Sabine in tracking down this Thrawn mystery. It showed again just the hubris of the New Republic Senate, in particular Mr. Xiono here. I mean, this guy's an ass. I mean, he's just a dick, but I guess, he does have decent points. Although, points like his are what ultimately lead the New Republic to fail. But I liked how Hera handled him, in particular calling him out and asking him if he participated in the war between the rebels and the Imperials, and accused him of, hey, were you just kind of sitting there waiting to see who came out on top? And that's typically the type of person senators are. But I'll talk more about this guy in a little bit, because he actually has been established in previous Star Wars content. All right, the final top moment here, and it was essentially the 2/3 of the episode, and that was the space battle, the dogfight between Ahsoka and what looked like literally World War II Corsair fighters that are, I guess, dark side friends were using, the bad guys. I mean, on-the-line Force users, the ships that Shin and Marok were piloting. But the space battle was awesome. I mean, at points it looked a little slow, a little cheesy, especially in the cockpit and shooting. And I think that's because of the performance issue I talked about earlier in the review. But hell, man, once Ahsoka strapped on that spacesuit and got out on the wings of the T-6, doing her aerials, cutting planes down in space, I mean, come on. It doesn't get much more Star Wars, much more Clone Wars type of mission than that. So the visuals were cool, the tension that the space battles add were neat, and hey, it's nice to get a space battle in Star Wars that lasts 10-15 minutes. So it was a nice little set piece and a good way to kind of wrap up the episode, add a little action to a lot of the dialogue and talking we got in episode 3 here. Okay, so to wrap things up, let's go ahead and go through some of the Easter eggs and references. Again, 0 eggs in my opinion, but plenty of references here, starting with Zatoichi himself. That is no mistake that Ahsoka brought that up and they were doing some blind training. Zatoichi is a character, a samurai character, a blind swordsman. So, Dave, George, they've always taken influences from samurai culture. And here we go. So sticking with that, we also had the boken sabers, which are used in Kenjutsu to train. So Ahsoka and Sabine were using those. And finally, like I said earlier, there are the training remotes that we saw Luke use, and in the Book of Boba Fett, Grogu also trained with the same type of remotes. All right, so during the New Republic Senator check-in, we get a Jason name drop. Sorry about that. More on him, Mr. Greenhair, in a bit. But like I said, you also get to meet in live action for the first time Hamato Xiono, who is the father of Kazuto Xiono, a hero of the Resistance, and the main character of the Star Wars Resistance animated series, which I know not a lot of people love. I kind of dig it. I think Kaz is a very interesting Star Wars hero. But that is his father, who is a senator and lives on Hosnian Prime, which eventually becomes the seat of the New Republic and gets blown up in The Force Awakens. Unfortunately, Hamato does not perish when the First Order blows up the planet, because he sure as hell deserves to, based on this exchange. But also during this scene, I really enjoyed when Hera referenced her battles with Thrawn, which essentially for us Star Wars Rebels fans, we know she's talking about essentially Season 3 and Season 4, and all the tussles they had, the conflicts the Phoenix Squadron, her Ghost crew had with Thrawn, and then ultimately what Thrawn did to get himself taken out of the galaxy by Ezra. So nice little callback to Rebels to, it highlights some new lore content for casual fans, but to kind of tip the hat to us hardcores, like, hey, we got you. We know Hera's past. We know you know Hera's past, but now she's going to speak it out a little bit. And hey, there he is. At first I thought we'd just get the name, but Mr. Greenhair showed up, Jason. Looking great, playing by Evan Whitten here. Doesn't look quite as odd as his animated counterpart look, and he maintained the green hair, and the green hair actually works. So, I like the fact that he mentioned Jedi wanting to be one, and Aunt Sabine. Just great stuff, great lore, great connections back to Star Wars Rebels, because he is a son of a Jedi. This is Kanan Jarrus' son. Kanan is a fantastic Star Wars character, and another reason to watch Star Wars Rebels. I mean, heck, he even shows up in Bad Batch. So Kanan, he's got history. Check him out, but this is his son, so nice little check-in there. Hey, looking at Shin's headset. Does that remind someone else of a Force user's headset when they are in the cockpit of their starfighter? It should, because it looks very similar, if not dead on, to the one Anakin and Obi-Wan used during the Clone Wars. All right, I might be going out on a limb like this, but I'm gonna mention it. Marok spoke a little bit in this episode. Okay, probably Sam Witwer's voice. Just go check. Additional voice work provided. I know Paul Darnell is his stunt body playing him, but pretty sure that's Sam's voice under the modulator. But one of the lines he speaks is very Vader-esque. When Shin asks him to kind of peel off, he says, "As you wish." And if this character really is kind of inching towards being the new version, the canon version of Vader's apprentice, aka Starkiller, Galen Merrick, as he was called in The Force Unleashed, that again is by design. Having him say "as you wish," I mean, come on, that was one of Vader's favorite kind of sign-offs when his boss was giving him something to do. So I don't know, there could be something there beyond all the other signs that Marok could be more than just an Inquisitor. And to wrap things up, our Easter eggs and references breakdown for this episode, we get in plain view, I know they're in episode 1, but we get the Purrgil and a nice little explanation for noobs on what they are. These things essentially are the reason that hyperspace travel can take place in the Star Wars galaxy, and as explained, they also allow for travel in between, galaxies in the Star Wars universe. So yes, it is the Star Wars universe now. We know of multiple galaxies, and it looks like we are headed to one. Maybe by the end of episode 4, probably in 5. So things are getting exciting, my friends. All right, thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure to sub to the channel. Don't forget, we also do a podcast, so sign up on the podcast platforms, because there's always time for Star Wars Time. You can go to starwarstime.net or use the links in this video's description to get all of that work done. And remember, if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you always.